everybody and welcome to Review Reviews, back with some more Japanese deep dive and some test disc reviews. Just can't get enough, just can't stay away. After doing some mainline Hong Kong movies with The Killer and Hard Boiled, I am back doing some Japanese content, Japanese cinema. I just love this space, I love these series of films for some wonderful distribution companies like Radiance Films, Our Video, Third Window Films, providing some of the best editions for 2026. And upcoming on this channel is going to be a load of Japanese content for you guys. For me, for the very first time, checking these out in HD, watching those wonderful special features with some of the best and brightest in terms of audio commentaries, insights I never knew I had, and just kind of fully diving into these films, giving you my honest first-time impressions, thoughts and opinions on these films and the special features. So if you like Japanese content, you're going to see a lot of upcoming releases coming soon from the end of March, going into April from both Our Video and Third Window Films. So I've decided to do as a bit of a bulk, experiencing these films for the very first time and interacting with you in the comments and creating that kind of back and forth discussion. I am talking about Eiichi Kudo's Samurai Revolution Trilogy set coming on the 30th of March 2026. A wonderful trilogy set of films from this director. Been long sought after for myself, staple landmark films in terms of not just Japanese cinema, but samurai films, leading the way to decades later for the first entry on this review, which would be The 13 Assassins, released in 1963. And there was, of course, a remake later on in 2010 by Takaaki Miike, which I'm very, very excited for because I've had the remake on the shelf for quite some time, but I really want to check out the original first and can, compare and contrast and to see which one I prefer. And I always like to see what the remake does compared to the original. And sometimes it doesn't always happen, but in this case, I really wanted to kind of long wait for the original to come out, and now it has on a physical release on a wonderful limited edition set. And surprisingly to me as well, that this box set is not getting talked about. It's not getting advertised particularly that well. It's not on anyone's radar from what I'm seeing. Everyone's been, again, really excited, really pumped up for the Hard Boiled and The Killer, of course, understandably. And this one's kind of been overshadowed by it potentially. I'm not too sure, but it's kind of got a bit of a stealth kind of release. It's kind of just appeared on the site, appeared on the announcements, and just no one's really interacting with it. And it's surprising because these are really important films, landmark samurai Japanese films that paved the way for many other great movies later on, including the remake and many others like it in that same space. So I am very happy to talk about these for the very first time, giving my honest thoughts and impressions and diving into the special features, much like my other previous test disc reviews. And to make this even more special is I'm getting the physical box set as a birthday gift from my friend Richard, upcoming soon, which I'm very excited for. So I will be getting the physical edition for this set. Much like most of the reviews that I do on this channel, I always do pre-order and get the physical versions later on. This is just a wonderful, kind of very grateful early access to these films and to kind of see what they're all about and to kind of create some kind of buzz and some hype. Whether I like the films or not is another question, but the edition is out, it's coming soon, and to see what you guys think as well. So I am pumped to dive into this box set in this edition and many other Japanese films from Arrow and Third Window Films very soon. But for today, let's dive into the original 13 Assassins, released in 1963. Let's go. Now, in terms of the story for 13 Assassins, it is a relatively simple premise. However, what makes it quite unique and special is how it's directed, how it's performed, how it's executed, how it takes the kind of traditional, story beats and kind of themes about honor and duty, status, the rich and powerful, but also just the idea of being honorable, being a decent person in a relatively peaceful time. It's a very unique kind of premise. And, you might have seen versions of this story before in terms of many interpretations later on within the West and in Japanese and Hong Kong. It is a 60s kind of benchmark film, kind of blueprint film. And I can see the influence and what's been taken away. And even something for this in terms of 1963, something like Seven Samurai that came way before it, you got the same type of idea that's been kind of recycled but altered and changed and messed around with. And that's not a new thing. We're Hong Kong movies, Japanese films, Yakuza films. The film opens up with a harakiri kind of action being taking place in terms of a character committing suicide, taking a small blade, ripping open his guts. A very traditional method of kind of suicide in terms of, being very shameful, guilt or dishonor, The samurai life is not an easy one, and that's something that's been explored multiple times within Japanese cinema, and there's a known kind of historical fact that it is a very lonely, very dangerous, and very short life expectancy in terms of a samurai. And the film, it very interestingly opens up in this idea of this is a decade of peace. There's been no wars in a while. It's commented in the film quite a few times that the samurai are relatively quite useless. There is no experienced kind of samurai in the modern generation at that time, and there's no one been taking up arms anymore, and everything is quite still. And you've got a character which is performing this in front of their lord, and you've got this kind of emergency kind of council meeting taking place, and essentially you've got the father who speaks to one of the more seasonal pros, and you're establishing essentially the decade that it's in, the kind of the mindset that's going on, and the kind of this idea of the working class, the servantry, and the kind of the system that takes place essentially in this decade, in this time. And you've got the more seasonal, more pro men that are established wonderfully and seamlessly in the film in terms of who they are, in terms of their honor. Very traditional themes about honor, duty, doing the right thing, service to your lord. In terms of the shogun, in terms of, basically the shogun is the heaven's will. It is the Lord's will. Essentially, it can't be questioned. And the job of a samurai is to live and breathe and die at the command of the higher ups, the rulers. You've got the ruling class, the servants, and you've got the samurai. So it's a very interesting kind of divisions of people that is, taken very, very seriously in this film. And essentially, you've got the father who has come to one of the more seasonal pros at the request of the shogun advisory, if I'm not mistaken, which he's in a position where he can't do anything, and there's a serious problem. And basically, you've got the shogun's brother, who is in a position of great power, comes from a great wealthy family, and essentially you've got this father comes in, tells the story of what happened last April last year of his son and the wife being killed at basically at the mercy of this really nasty Joffrey Game of Thrones type character entitled asshole, essentially. And he tells the story what happened to his son and his wife, being sexually assaulted, and later committing suicide herself and out of shame and guilt. The son being slayed down in his own home, his own kind of, his own people, and being in a position where he can't do anything because it is the shogun's brother, stepbrother, I believe, in this one. I'm not too sure about the remake, but in this one, he can't touch him and he needs justice. And that's what the film is all about. This 13 assassin kind of, come together, this collaboration of men, different walks of backgrounds, some more personal, some for hire, all coming together against the odds to basically stop this entitled, very nasty person, this, shogun's brother, in his tracks, because he is in a position now where he cannot be touched. And he's about to go on the road and travel to a highly new position of the shogun's council. Once he gets to that position, once he gets to a certain location, he is untouchable. He has too many men around him, too many men willing to lay down their arms and life service to this lord, regardless of his actions, regardless of his ruthlessness, and essentially gathers up loyal men, people that are willing to fight under his name. He has a pupil, which is basically he is raised up and taught the way of the sword, and at his service you've got, I believe, a nephew, which he is requesting to join him on this crusade, and various different people across the film come and join it. You even get a Ronin. Every character in the 13 Assassins, which I can't really dive into all individually, it would take too much time, but everyone in this film is really well fleshed out, gets some really good scenes back and forth with each other and showing their different kind of circumstance and different dynamics, and how it all comes together. And basically they are plotting to basically assassinate this entitled, very ruthless kind of lord who is about to become in a much dangerous position if not stopped now. And this is at peacetime, and the different kind of regimes and different people of power is something I need to explore a lot more of in terms of understanding the different decades and what was going on in terms of the political aspects. Something that I'm not really familiar with as strongly as I should be, but the film does a really good job of kind of telling you what's going on, what is the status, who are these people, why they're doing it. And it is a real kind of like taking up arms, essentially, because you've got essentially all these people that are essentially going to betray the Lord, going to betray the shogun's kind of brother, the working kind of class, the system that's in place, and basically willing to defy it, willing to break their oath, willing to kind of go against their own kind of, status, regardless of what position they're in, to basically take this guy out. And I like the fact that this film is essentially an internal kind of struggle and a battle between your honor, your position, and doing the right thing. You've got a 2 hour and 5 minute film. An hour and 35 of that is essentially establishing the decade, establishing who these characters are, the working kind of system that's in place in terms of position of power, what the samurai status is at that time, and people kind of gathering up to take out this lord. And I like the fact it is going into kind of their individual kind of motivations. Some get more screen time than others, some get more fleshed out than others, some are more personal. I like the fact there is strategy there. There is a sense of kind of camaraderie and just figuring out how do you go about doing this. I love the fact that even the father, the one who's lost his son and his wife very early on, to say he wanted to commit suicide, the start of the film, he's saying, I won't do it until I can get some form of justice. Manages to kind of be a very important role in terms of trapping the Lord and his troops on the journey, on the way to basically go to the council, and basically forcing them to detour to a location which essentially is nicknamed the Town of Death, because essentially they've acquired this town with so many kind of deadly kind of traps and kind of, essentially once they enter into this town, they are locked in and essentially going to take on the troops, in a massive blaze of kind of destruction and glory, total chaos, total destruction. And these 13 assassins go against some great numbers. I believe it's between 70 and 100, I believe. A lot of people, all to get to the Lord and willing to sacrifice their lives along the way. And very impressive, in terms of the time it's made and really utilizing the location, really kind of investment level, because it's all built up to that point in terms of the film. And you really care about these characters, you really care about them, their individuals, and why they're doing what they're doing and how strongly they believe it. And I really enjoyed my time with this. I thought this was a really solid film. There's some great directing here, some great performances, really good pacing, and some great setup for the third act, which is just a real blast to watch in terms of on location, samurai fighting, and a really satisfying conclusion to the film as well, which I really enjoyed. Now, in terms of the special features, you get a wonderful audio commentary by Tom Mez, which is a real staple in Japanese kind of culture, and he appears in a lot of kind of, Arrow Video and Radiance and Fair Window films. Does a wonderful job here in terms of the audio commentary. Listen to about half of it, but I really like his kind of talking about the company and what was going on during the time, and again, giving his real extensive knowledge of the film and the status of how important this film was for the decade it was made in. Wonderful commentary right there. You get a brand new extra called the Samurai Variations, which is a 25-minute extra, mainly talking about the composer and the scorers of the film itself, in terms of the 13 assassins who went on to do many of the really big kind of entry films in terms of Japanese cinema, and talks more about that angle, which I think is quite unique. And I don't think that's something that is explored very often in terms of not just talking about the film and the performance and the director, but talking about the scoring and how important the scoring was for this. And one of the final extras you get is an archival extra called Samurai Guerrilla Part 1, which is part 1 of 3, which the other 2 parts are on the other 2 films, of course. And you have the director's assistant alongside some other collaborators on the film talking about the influence of the film and the importance of it, really giving you a lot of key information and insights that you probably would never expect. So that's been my thoughts and impressions on 13 Assassins, the original 1963. Really enjoyed my time here in terms of this original entry. Really looking forward to diving into the other 2 films on this edition in terms of the 11th Samurai and The Great Killing, and exploring their extra and special features as well. What are your thoughts and impressions on the 13 Assassins? Do you think the original was better than the remake? Do you think the remake is better? I'd love to know your thoughts and impressions. I will be diving into the remake for the next entry video, because it makes sense to do the original and then do the remake after and see which one is better, which one I prefer, or maybe I like both, who knows. What are your thoughts and impressions on the original or the remake? Please comment down below. So in time, guys, I'm for reviews. Signing out.